Well, hello to everybody. Here it's Teresa Sanderson. Oh my gosh, I'm excited to connect with you again today for another episode of Dare to Do Nursing Differently. We have a wonderful guest with us today. Her name is Michelle Verna. And Michelle, I just want to take a second and welcome you to the show.
Hey, Michelle Perna. Sorry. Sorry to correct.
Oh, I love that.
Teresa, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here and everything that you
Absolutely.
do.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Absolutely. So, for those of you in the audience who don't know Michelle yet, I just want to tell you a little bit about her, a little mini bio, so to speak. But Michelle is a registered nurse and exercise scientist. I love that. She's an experienced personal trainer, coach, health coach, and neonatal intensive care RN, IVRN, phlebotomy instructor, and educator. And she is working to bring wellness back into healthcare, which I love. And her company is Leading Intravenous Education and Wellness. Welcome again, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as we get started here, my audience is nurses and nurse entrepreneurs. So, first thing everybody's curious about is where'd you come from, girl? How'd you get started in nursing? We want to know your story. What kind of work have you done in nursing, right? So, tell us a little bit about your history.
Totally fair. So my career kind of started in health and wellness. I graduated with my bachelor's of science in exercise science from George Washington University, and I worked in the health and wellness world for a while. Got to play some competitive rugby, which was a blast, and I eventually got to the point where the my health and wellness career was not as fulfilling as I was hoping it would be and was not a good fit for me at that time in my life. And so that's when I started to lean a little bit more towards the medical field. I had started schooling off as pre med and ended up switching to exercise science. And I think it's because I've always just had the love for both medicine and health and wellness. And unfortunately, at the time they were kind of separated. It was either medicine or health and wellness and not a lot of it
Still the
together.
same, yeah.
Yeah, so I felt that struggle going back and forth, and so I ended up going back to school for my accelerated nursing degree, my Bachelor of Science of Nursing, again at George Washington University. And when I graduated, I went right into neonatal intensive care. I've always loved working with either babies, children, youth, etc. I did a lot of wellness education for young adolescents and young children. And so I was still catering towards that group of individuals. And so it was a great experience getting to start off in the NICU. And I worked at Children's National. That was my first job. And they had a phenomenal training program. I got to start off with about 6 months of both didactic and hands-on training. I
Wow.
had a phenomenal instructor that was with me for the full 6 months, pretty much watching every little thing that I did, giving me critiques and custom training based off of what I needed. And so it really set me up for success in my career, especially clinical wise. And then from Children's National, I moved down to Florida. So that was in Washington, D.C. And then I moved down to Florida and I worked for Jupiter Medical Center. And it was wonderful experience. It's a community hospital. And I really loved that change of pace because Children's National is a phenomenal hospital, but very, very high acuity.
Sure.
And I was starting to get strained on the constant high levels of stress, as well as a lot of moral and ethical dilemmas that I was running into. And
Mhm.
so, as you know, hospitals are run somewhat like a business and very much like a business in certain cases.
Yes,
And so,
yes.
it can be not always to the advantage of the patient. And that really started to weigh on me. And that's what
Mm,
kind of made me lean towards community hospital settings.
yeah.
And then I loved working in a community hospital. It was a great fit for me. And then also, though that environment started to change and become a little bit more corporate, and it's so wild how quickly you can feel the difference and you can
Mhm.
see it. And so, That was also around the time of COVID. So there was just like a lot of stressors coming at every angle. And so I was starting to feel the struggle again, that internal struggle of the moral, ethical dilemmas, and
Yeah.
feeling like I came here to help, but I didn't feel like I was always helping my patients. And so, um, that is what led me to try to discover and really realize that I want to find something where I can blend my two careers together. I want to find something that is going to perfectly braid my health and wellness career with my nursing career and the
Love it.
modern medicine side of things. And so that's been the journey I've been on for the past 4 years now. Is I've worked for a tech startup. I've worked for health and wellness companies and regenerative medicine physician. And it's been an incredible experience kind of navigating this world. And I'm starting to see it really coming to fruition. And now is a great time in our society that we are starting to realize, hey, we've completely left wellness out of medicine for a long time, and it's time to bring it back into the picture. And so that's what led me to really starting my business and all the fun, exciting goals I have planned up ahead.
Wow. I absolutely love that story. And I think, so many nurses can resonate with the idea of, I'm really not necessarily working to help my patient with wellness, right? I'm really not
Yeah,
doing that. And I was a nurse for probably 25 years when I realized all I've ever done is help patients manage disease and illness.
yeah,
That-
exactly.
And when I realized that, it was like, oh my goodness, now how do I continue? How do
Yeah.
I? Yeah, it's like, what now? And I know
Yep.
that there are so many nurses who are in that struggle, of seeing what they know to be true about, wellness, complementary therapies, all of the things, right? And then what traditional Western medicine looks like. And it's so
Exactly.
interesting. So I love your idea of how do I braid the two? How do I braid
100%.
them so that, again, so that you live in alignment with what you value, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
yeah, there's so much stress that we can have from just being out of alignment with our values. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel is another reason why I got so drawn towards entrepreneurship is exactly what you said right there. Is that I
mm,
just felt like everywhere I was positioned was not 100% in line
mhm.
with my values, which you can manage it for a period of time. You can kind of you can put up with it and you're like,
Oh
it's
yeah,
okay. I know I'm not the boss. I don't get to make the decisions until finally you get to be in a position where you're like, you know what? Maybe I can be my own boss. Maybe I can make the decisions. Maybe I can create something that is so perfectly in line with my morals and values. And I think nurses are such a great option there's such a great opportunity there for nurses. There's so many things that nurses can be doing other than bedside
yeah,
or hospital care, office care, etc.
yeah. I love that. I love that. And so you stepped into entrepreneurship and it sounds like you kind of bounced your way around on a couple of different things. And so how do you serve your clients today with your current business and company?
So I basically what started my company was I realized that when I received my training, that was a rarity. I did not realize that all nurses did not receive that because my 6 months right when I got out of nursing school before I started my career was like another consolidated nursing school, just
Right.
specifically for the NICU. And I thought that was across the board, but I realized very quickly that was not the case. For example, my poor wife, her first job, she kind of got like thrown to the wolves, so to speak. They were like, here's your 3 days introduction. Good luck. You got this.
Yeah.
And so I then started to see how frequently, like it was more common that people did not receive intense training than it was that people actually did receive training. And so I was starting to work with healthcare professionals directly and seeing that there was so much hesitancy and lack of confidence around certain skills. One of the most important ones being phlebotomy skills and IV placement, being in the NICU, I was something that I got I got trained extensively in. And so I had this set of knowledge and skills that I felt was very easy for me to relay to other healthcare professionals because so many of the professionals I worked with are brilliant, extremely competent. They just weren't given the right information. Nobody showed them, nobody took the time to practice with them, nobody taught them all of the little details and intricacies that you need to pay attention to in order to be successful in those skills.
Right.
And so I started doing research online and I was like, there's phlebotomy courses, but that's for somebody who's just coming from like a non-healthcare background. A lot of times
Mhm.
it's becoming a phlebotomist. But really, we didn't have anything available unless it's offered directly by the hospital that they're working with or the facility that they're working with to
Mhm.
help already pre-established healthcare professionals learn these skills.
Mhm.
And so that's why I started my company. I wanted to provide both virtual, in person, and a setting for healthcare professionals to learn 101 basics of phlebotomy skills. That is so critical to building all of or many other clinical skills on top of that
Mhm.
one.
Sure.
And so I kind of go not just into phlebotomy itself, but I go into so many other aspects of it, like bedside manner and how you connect with your patient, that plays a massive role in your ability to succeed in these skills.
Oh my gosh, that is just incredible. And it's so true and it's so unfortunate that the training that nurses get on the job is typically a trial by fire.
Yeah.
And that's, I actually did a post and a video about that the other day that, trial by fire is not onboarding. That
Yes.
is not what we need.
Correct.
So I love that you had that intentional time,
Hmm.
with, an instructor to kind of guide you and walk you through all the things as a new nurse. That is just incredible. That is just
Yeah.
incredible. And I love hearing the story though, and knowing that it is available somewhere. And I'm sure there are some unicorns, right, throughout the country
Yeah.
who are just doing an excellent job of onboarding, but sadly, it's just not the ordinary experience. It's not the everyday experience for nurses.
Correct, correct. I
Yeah.
wish it was a standard and I wish it
Mhm.
was an absolute requirement for every like
Yep.
it's your first career or first role in this healthcare position and that everybody learned like at least
Mhm.
this skills, information, etc. And then when
Right.
you go into your specialty afterwards, you're going to either get practice or not get practice or
Yep.
further practice, I should say. But
Agreed. Agreed. Wow. Well, that is incredible. I love what you're doing. What is one of the things that you love most about working for yourself?
oh, definitely the freedom. I've always been more of like the wild child in my family and the free spirit maybe is the right word. I don't know, but I just love the flexibility and getting to create my own schedule and really what you put into it is what you get out of it. And the work-life balance has been the most important and also the thing that I've been the most grateful for because coming from the health and wellness world and then going into medicine was night and day. I
Right.
went from being in the best shape of my life and, everything was great, fine and dandy to like working night shift and I gained like 25 pounds and I felt terrible. So I was like, okay, I want to care for people, but I also want to put the mask on myself first. And yeah, I want to take care of myself in order to be able to take care of other people. And I've been able to do that. Of course, starting a business is not easy, but I have been able to still put my well-being first to make sure that I can put the best product forward, the best service forward, and be of the most help to the community.
Wow, I love that. And you know what? It's so interesting. You are the second person, and I'm the third, who would say, because it seems so paradoxical that starting your own business could actually be the key to flexibility, life
Yeah,
balance, alignment, all of the things, right? I am a
correct.
major depression thriver, crashed and burned from clinical depression in 2010, couldn't work for 3 years. And I've recovered. I've made it to the other side. I've gone back to traditional healthcare settings and I can do it,
Good
but I
for you.
choose not to because I
Yes.
can take the best care of myself when I work for myself. And that's so interesting because we know
100%.
as entrepreneurs, there are some things that are stressful. There are some things that are anxiety provoking. There are some things that, it's a roller coaster ride all its own.
Exactly.
But I'm with you. I have found, yeah, so much more balance and, just being in alignment with my values is
Yes,
just huge for me, but also the freedom.
absolutely.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, because your passion for what you're doing is what's driving you.
Yeah.
And it's what is making you excited to do the work. And knowing that it's okay, you can sleep when you need to sleep and take a break when you need it, and you're not going to get fired because you had four call outs or whatever it is. Like getting rid of that stress and doing what is in exactly like you said, in alignment with you is just an incredible feeling. It's so freeing and it just totally changes your life.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that message. That is fantastic. So now I'm going to ask you to share with our audience, because you and I know there are a lot of nurses out there who aspire to be business owners, entrepreneurs. They worry that they don't have enough skill, enough talent, enough knowledge to start a business. And they're just fearful of it, yet they want more. They're longing
Yep.
for more. We hear from them every day. What is the one piece of advice you would share with a nurse who's in that situation?
I know this might sound a little corny, but I'm just going to say just do it. Really just do it. I Nurses are so incredibly competent. They have an amazing skill set from the clinical aspect to the bedside manner and the ability to connect with human beings and to care, to truly care for others. You have such an incredible infrastructure that I just want to say there are so many people that don't have half of the character and like the ability that so many of these nurses I know have, and they are successful and they are doing what they love. I have so much confidence in the nursing community, just really, truly wonderful people, and a lot of times just really a good heart. So many nurses go into nursing because they have such a big heart and they want to help others. And you can do it in so many other ways, and you don't have to be miserable doing it. Absolutely. If you're miserable, please take the chance on yourself. You are so worth it.
I love that. I love that. And so much validation in that. And I feel the same way. I teach nurses, I told you this yesterday, that I teach nurses how to turn what they already know into income because there's so
Yes.
much between your ears, that you've gathered over the years that you've been practicing, and why can't we use that knowledge to make it easier for the nurses who are new today? It's so simple. It's such a simple thought process, right? Of just
Right.
let's just hand down that knowledge from one generation of nurses to another. And
It's
that is
so
that in
true.
itself is income. What you're doing is, there's so many different things. And I was at a conference last week, and there are nurses who are involved in AI. They're creating tools and
Nice.
EMR systems and upgrades that are useful to nurses because they've been designed by nurses, right?
Yes.
The EMRs
That
we
key
hate
point.
today as Yeah, the EMRs we hate today as nurses have not been designed by nurses, but for nurses. And they did it
Correct.
right.
That's huge. And that's such a big part. And that's something that I feel like nurses need to know, that the rest of the community, like business individuals, tech individuals, engineers, they need to know what you know and what you've experienced. Even politicians and lobbyists, other people, they have not been in your shoes. So they don't understand the full extent. And that's where the nurses come in. That connection between, we are truly the middle person. We are the person between the patient, the healthcare community, and the rest of the community. We're such good translators. And
Yeah.
so it really is important, I feel. And now is the time. Now is a great time for it. Really is.
Amen to that. Yeah, because healthcare is changing right now in front of our eyes with
Yeah.
everything that's going on. There's been a lot of hard stories in the news recently, a lot of painful stories, but it is events like these that bring change. And so
Yes.
now, in my opinion, while yes, it's challenging to look some of these things in the face, it's an exciting time to be a nurse because
Yep.
healthcare is changing and we can stand up and have a voice and
Exactly.
we can choose to do it differently. We can choose to do it
Exactly.
differently. Absolutely.
Agreed. I could not agree more with that. Exactly. We can
Yeah.
put to bed the, oh, this is just how we've always done it mantra. Yeah, let's put that night night. Like, let's move on. We got bigger and better things to do, and there's so much potential ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh my gosh, Michelle, I just love chatting with you as always. And what I want to do right now before we finish up is give you the floor so you can share with our audience how can they connect with you outside of this interview so that they can get to learn more about your educational services and all the good work that you're doing. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, you can reach out to me. My website is www.liveandwellness.com. There is a contact page on there that will go directly to my email. And I love to get any feedback, any questions, anything at all. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me at Michelle Perna, as well as Leading Intravenous Education and Wellness is on LinkedIn there too. And also, my wife and I have a podcast called Nurse First. It's all about health and wellness. It truly goes over the pillars of health and wellness and the most important things that we feel are being left out of medicine. Really educational topics that we are hoping to see be brought into modern medicine again.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh, this has been such a pleasure to have you as a guest today. Thank you for joining me, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Teresa, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And to everybody in the audience, I do want to encourage you, connect with Michelle, find her on LinkedIn, check out her website, and just get to know her. She's a wealth of knowledge and resources, and definitely you can tell very supportive of nurses on their journeys. So thank you for tuning in today. That is the end of today's episode. We will see you next time on Dare to Do Nursing Differently. Bye for now.